Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Travis Lee. We're going to talk about something a little different today. I am super excited. I don't say that every episode. I say it every once in a while, and it's always because I really mean it. We're going to talk about direct mail today. We're going to expand upon that, of course, but it's going to be a really great conversation. So welcome to the show, Travis.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you, talk to your listeners about, what many people would consider old school or dusty or stodgy direct mail, but it's still alive and kicking and making a lot of money for folks who use it right.
There's a key, right? Using it right. And that is an area that you really have mastered. And that's why you're so successful in your business. And that's why you're so successful at helping your clients. It's not just as simple as getting some bulk postcards and sending them out and then expecting the money to start rolling in. So why don't we start by talking a little bit about what you do in your business so our listeners kind of have a frame of reference, and then that would probably be the perfect lead into what I just pointed out, is that not all direct mail is created equal.
Yeah. So our goal is to help make direct mail for business owners, for marketing managers, whoever may be in charge of the marketing and advertising in any business, make it as easy as possible. And so it all starts with your mailing list. Who is it going to? What's the makeup? What's your avatar? Are they existing clients? Are they past clients? Are you prospecting for new clients? And so when we start a conversation, it always starts with, who are we mailing to? Because that's where that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where success is either going to be had or be missed. So when you talk direct mail, there's really only three things that you can, really affect. That's your list, that's your offer. So what you want them to do. Is it a lead generation offer? Are we asking them to come in for a visit? Do we want them to come and buy something right away? So that's your offer. And then you have, what is it that you send? List, offer, and then we call that media. So what we try to do is we try to make sure all three of those are aligned. Because if you've got one that's shorter than the other or one that's longer than the other, think of it like a triangle, you're not going to have success. So you really need to have your list in order first. What is our offer? And then how do we get that message in front of them? I'll give you a quick example, and we can go deeper if you want. But if you're sending, let's say you're a restaurant owner and you're sending everyone who has a birthday in January in your service area, well, a postcard probably is going to work just fine. On the flip side, if we're a big B2B SaaS company and we want you to buy a $50,000 computer program, well, a postcard is not going to do it, right? And so, those are kind of extreme polar opposites. But the big mistake people I often see make is they expect more of their marketing than what could possibly be expected, if that makes sense, right? So they expect a $1 postcard to make a $50,000 sale, and that's just not going to happen. So we really try to have them have reasonable expectations within that triangle of message, market, and media.
You covered some key points right off the bat. One of the things that I think a lot of people get tripped up on is, who do I send this to? And, I don't have a list. I've got, some idea of who my clients and customers are, but where do I go from here? I remember in the early days in my hypnotherapy practice, going through the yellow pages to look, and see, okay, well, who are, business owners that could be in my demographic? And that's not necessary, right? There are much more sophisticated ways, but the clarity piece is the starting piece. And then finding that list or compiling that list or whatever your strategy is kind of the next logical step. So for people who are getting hung up on even that initial step, do you have any words of wisdom that can help people, point people in the right direction?
Well, so first off, when it comes to mailing lists, you do not have to work alone. We offer mailing list services. You can go to the Google and type list brokers. There are people like me, people in the direct mail world, whose job it is to know what lists are available, right? So there's no need for you to say, here's my avatar, let's go match it. Well, people, a list broker will be able to help you get that information. So there's a couple different ways we can go about this. First way, let's say you do have a good customer base and you just want more of the same customers. We can do a process, what's called a lookalike report. And we can actually take your best customers, upload them to our database, and then they'll tell us all the commonalities they have in common. So 60% of them are married, 75% of them have a college degree, 12% are empty nesters, 82% have kids. Well, based on that, now we can go and say, these are the customers that I want, because here's my best customers I have already. I want more of them, right? So that seems like a very easy process, very logical next step. The next thing we can do, so that's if you already have customers. The next place you can go is, again, to a list broker and describe your avatar. And then we have access. I have what's called the Google of mailing lists. So I have a website that I can go to where I can type in the certain attributes that you want. I'll give you a real life conversation that I just had a week or two ago with a customer of ours. He's in the hair restoration business. So he's in New York City and I think Columbus, yeah. And so fairly high end, these are not cheap surgeries. It's hair restoration. Well, when you think of hair restoration, you would think, well, any man or woman who is bald or balding, right? And of course, it's going to skew more towards men. Well, that's like the tip of the iceberg. So if we're working with him, we can go now and get a list and say, self-reported data, everyone who is bald or balding. Well, that's good, but it's not great because it doesn't show intent. It just shows that they have the thing that we help with. The next step now is, and these are actual lists that we found, would be people who are bald or balding and have purchased a product to fix said ailment. So now that's the next step. So that first list may be a whole bunch of bald is beautiful men, right? And so they think, I went bald, I shave it, and yes, I'm balding, but I don't care. Well, the ones who bought something, that's a trigger point. We call those psychographics. Their purchases in the past have told us that they would be responsive to what we have. Now that's one example in hair restoration, but we could do it with a dentist. We could do it with a restaurant owner. We could do it with almost any demographic you can think of. We can almost always find that next step of intent. Just because they meet our desired avatar doesn't mean they are. Do they have intent to fix what we solve?
It seems so simple, and yet it is a part of the formula that so many people miss. There is that overgeneralization that a lot of business owners do. And being able to identify the intent is so valuable because, like you said, not everybody wants to change. Even people who are looking at, okay, well, I have this expensive service, and so then I need bald or balding people that make X number of dollars per year so they can afford it, still doesn't necessarily mean that they want the help. And so it's a really valuable takeaway for people when they're considering, where should I be focusing my marketing efforts? Where should I be spending my marketing dollars? That piece right there is something I don't think anybody else has talked about that we've had on the show up to this point, regardless of what their marketing area of expertise is. So excellent takeaway for our listeners today. Something definitely worth really giving some serious consideration to when you're sort of plotting out your marketing campaign, which leads to the next piece, which is the message. So let's go there.
Yeah. So the message needs to cover a couple of different things. it needs to, one, satisfy your next step as a business owner. So as a business owner, marketer, whatever you are, whatever position you have and you're listening to this, obviously we all want more buyers, right? Well, I want them to buy more. Well, is that the next logical step? So let's go back to the example I gave at the very beginning, right? So we have the restaurant owner. He wants them to come into their restaurant and have a birthday, bring their wife and their kids and their aunts and uncles and have a birthday party. Well, so now we've got a message that is fairly easy to understand. There's no further explanation needed on come to the local Mexican place for your birthday dinner. There's no, right? So coming in and giving them an offer, the birthday boy gets a free meal, that's easy. So that message isn't tough. But now again, that flip side, we want to sell a $50,000 computer system. Well, I want more buyers. That's true, but where are they? Where are you? And what are the next steps to get them to that point? So it might be a free report. It might be a webinar invite. It might be a demo. So come and, that's everybody on SaaS says, come get a demo, right? They all say that right now. But that's the thinking when you think about your message is, what is my audience's intelligence level vis-a-vis my offering? And then how do I get them on a path to them buying with me? So the message, like I said, it can be very different from business to business. Again, even in the B2B space where you think most offers might be a little more complicated, right? I live in the B2B space. Every business I've ever been involved in, we've been selling to other businesses. Well, if like the toilet paper and tissue paper guy wants me to buy stuff from him, that's a lot different than, again, buying a big computer system or a phone system. So the offer really needs to, your initial offer needs to be that first step in the relationship that makes sense to both of you.
Let's go into offer even just a little bit more, because you could have a great offer, but people are inundated by marketing. We see so many big, bold claims everywhere that we kind of have just this tendency to write everything off as BS, especially if you've bought into a few of those things, right? You get the treadmill that is the extra special one that's supposed to make you that much, fitter, faster. And then you recognize, maybe not so much. Great marketing though, right?
Yeah.
So
And now it's a glorified clothes rack.
So how... And this area is something that you've really specialized in. So how do you actually get people to pay attention so that they're even willing to read your offer, to see your offer, to acknowledge that you exist and that you have a viable product or service that they might even possibly be interested in?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the ways we go about that is, first off, just being different than the rest of your marketplace. So again, we'll use, everyone's been to a restaurant, everyone's been to a Mexican restaurant. Almost all of them do a, free appetizer, free dessert, and it's on a full color postcard, right? Well, maybe one time instead, because that's what everybody's sending, maybe you send it in a envelope that's actually handwritten with a live stamp. The stamp's put on crooked, so it looks like, it wasn't placed by a machine, it was placed by an actual human, because nobody lines it up just perfect in the corner of the envelope. And now now you're showing up differently than them. Let's use our SaaS example. Maybe you send a big FedEx box of stuff to get attention. So inside now, so you've identified 100 VPs of XYZ, whatever, you're a marketing person, you're gonna identify senior VPs in marketing. Now you send them a big box of FedEx to them. Well, why is FedEx good? Well, it doesn't show up with the rest of the mail. If you're in a large business at all, it gets hand delivered to you by someone else in the office, right? Maybe it's an executive assistant or receptionist, someone else. So showing up different than everybody else in your industry is one very good way to do that. And, we were talking about this before the call, our shared mentor, Dan Kennedy. Most business owners say, what's the cheapest way I can get a customer? Dan says, don't do that. What's the most expensive thing you can do to get a customer and still be profitable? Because the more you can spend, you will win. if my competitors are only willing to spend $1 and I'm willing to spend $10, who is going to get the business? Well, the one by and large who spends $10 versus $1. So the biggest thing you can do, be different than what everyone else is doing. Don't, if everyone goes to this seminar or this trade show, is that really where you need to be? Maybe you should be over here, right? And so this has way more applicability than just direct mail. That's the biggest thing. Stand out, be different. The last thing you want is someone to say, boy, this looks exactly like XYZ competitor. You're toast if that happens.
Well, I have to use this as a segue to talk about a shock and awe package, because a lot of times that is after you've closed the deal, but not necessarily. Sometimes you're using that sort of extravagance to gain somebody's attention. So this is probably a great place to sneak that in, because you and I know what that is. And some other people listening may have heard the term. If anybody else listening has followed Dan, they've definitely heard the term. But for those who are completely new to this concept, can you start by giving a little bit of an explanation?
Yeah. So I'll give you a real live example of one we're doing right now for one of our current customers. He is a coach, so coach consultant in the attorney space. Now, he's not Ivory Tower's attorney. He's small Main Street entrepreneurial attorneys, ones that are still making good money. So what we have helped create for him is this box, and it's going to go out in a FedEx. And inside, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We're going to use it in a two-pronged way. We're going to use it for, like you said, for people who have contacted him and wanted more information, and they've requested, say, a book or a report. Well, they're going to get the book and the report. They're also going to get sales letters. They're also going to get testimonial sheets. We're going to send them little package of lifesavers because we're your practice lifesaver. A whole bunch of other stuff. So they think they're getting a book, right? But they're really getting this box of stuff that really cement, his name is Rich, really cement Rich as the go-to person in this industry. Well, simultaneously with that, so we're going to be sending out, he gets his leads, the leads come in, and we're going to send those out. What he's also going to be doing is he's got his hit list of about 500 attorneys who may or may not know him, but they definitely don't have a relationship of any kind. They are going to get a very similar box. And again, it is the whole idea of overwhelming them with social proof, with social proof and all the things that you need as a business owner to convince somebody that, hey, yeah, this is the guy I should be aligning myself with. Now he's a coach and consultant. Again, we could take out coach and consultant and put in, again, a SaaS or a software or a computer system or furniture for that matter, right? If you help outfit businesses with 50 or more people, well, that's a lot of furniture, right? So sending a $20 box of stuff might make perfect sense. So it's the whole idea of overwhelming them with social proof and not just telling them, but proving to them you are the person that they want to work with in that industry. I hope that answered that. I would have known we were going to talk about it. I would have brought his box and kind of showed it.
Well, I love this. And it's a concept that can be applied in so many different ways. Even, really, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. There's always a way that you can use it, from the more basic, kind of conventional one, which is somewhat more common when you get the little goodie bag, right? The little swag bag with your business card and your booklet and your pen and that. Even that stands out from most businesses. But then when you can really up level it, you are an author, you send your books, like you said, lots of social proof. There's so many crazy things that I've heard that people do.
Well, while we're on the subject, I'll bring up another one that we've done. So it's all relative to your industry. Coach and consultant ultimately wants to sell them a $30,000 basically coaching consulting deal. Well, we've had residential painters use the same idea. Now, a residential painter might be a couple $1,000s, might be a few $1,000s, but we've all had our house painted, whether it's inside, outside, it doesn't matter. Well, so now that painter only needs to be better than the other 2 or 3 companies that got a quote from this guy. So if the painter has a book and the painter sends it in an express mail envelope with a package of testimonials, that is going to dwarf whatever other painters are doing that he's up against in a quoting process. So it may sound extravagant to have this attorney and he's got a $30,000 price point and he's got 28 things in this box. Well, that's all relative. To sell what he wants to do, and this goes all the way back to our very beginning conversation, to do what he wants to do, that's what he has to send to get the next step. Well, the painter, what other residential painter has a book? None, right? There might be a dozen painters in the entire country that have a book. He's in South Florida. He's got a book. He's got a package of testimonials and a little guaranteed certificate that he guarantees you'll like the outcome of your paint job. No other home services providers doing anywhere close to that. So it's all relative, right? You can be on one end or the other, but it's relative to what you are competing against and that next desired step.
So part of me just wants to keep going on and on and on with this, because we didn't even get to the third piece of the triangle yet. So maybe we should just touch on that real briefly.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we don't go too long with this conversation either. Why don't we finish off by talking a little bit about that third piece of the triangle, and then I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit.
Yeah, so we actually kind of blended. So you got list, offer, media. We kind of blended that offer and that media in our last conversation, right? So the media is the thing that you use to communicate your message. Direct mail is just one of them. Obviously, within direct mail, there's postcards, there's letters, there's what we call 3D mail. So if you've ever seen, a tube mailer, or we've got these little bank bags with a little zipper on the top. So let's say you're selling someone on how to make or save money. You can actually put a letter inside of a bank bag and then mail that right through the mail. So the media is now the appropriateness to get the next step, right? So it's picture you're like going up a staircase. How do we get them to take that next step? So the list was that first step. Then the offer is the next step. Then the media is the next step. When I go out and give talks, I like to say in terms of media, if you're a manufacturer of adjustable beds and your target market is 65 plus, well, guess what? The yellow pages still might be a viable market. Direct mail would certainly be a viable market. However, if you sell all-inclusive spring break vacation packages to college students, well, boy, the yellow pages sure would not be a good place to advertise. You're going to want to be on TikTok and Instagram and all those things that all the young kids are on today, right? So the media, again, is affected by the first two, the list and the message. And so that's why I said it's a triangle. And if you've got one end longer than the other, yeah, you can still have success, but it might not be the best success. So that's when you think about the media, where are they congregating? Where can I reach them? How can I reach them? What's my price point? Obviously, $30,000, we've got a lot more money to spend than $30. Even if you're selling a $200 steak dinner in a really nice steakhouse, you're limited in what you can send and what you can do. So you've really got to consider all those things. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit. I said, if you're selling a $200 steak dinner, you're limited. Well, what if that person comes in once a week? What if you offer catering and getting that person in opens the door to do the catering for their business? So there's a lot of things to consider, but for the most part, you've got to reach them where they want to be reached in a way that they want to be reached, right? So again, yellow pages versus Instagram in its simplest form.
I love it. So much gold. Okay. So now I just have to take at least a couple minutes
Yeah.
and get into your head a little bit, because that's my favorite place to be. So are you willing to share with us maybe one mindset obstacle that you've personally had to overcome in order to get to where you are today in your business?
It's a great question. I will frame it, since I'm a marketing guy, I will frame it in terms of marketing. The biggest thing that, so a couple thoughts on that. First off, marketing is all about testing and measuring and being able to get through your down cycles, if you will. Marketing is a lot like baseball, right? So think about a baseball player. If they bat 300, so they get a hit 3 out of every 10 times, they are wildly successful. They'll make money beyond all comprehension. They'll be in the Hall of Fame, but they still don't succeed 7 out of 10 times. When it comes to marketing, generally business, and then just generally in business, most of us strike out way more than we get hits. And most of us certainly make an out way more than we hit a home run. And so the first part of that is there's never anything, there's never a thing that we did that's a failure. There's a thing that we did that we learned from. All right. So again, that baseball player, boy, he gets me out with the changeup every single time. Well, I have to adjust now so that that pitcher doesn't get me out with the changeup every single time. That's the first thing. And then the second thing comes, I like sports, so I love sports analogies, right? Same idea is that when you do direct mail, and I don't know where we got this idea when it comes to just marketing in general, but I need to hit a home run the first time out and then every time after that. Well, that's not feasible. So imagine, I did something, I tried it, I tested it, it quote unquote didn't work. Well, if you have kids and you're trying to get your kid to walk and they're 13 months old and they're not walking, you're not going to say, I guess you're just not a walker. I guess we'll just learn to crawl the rest of our lives, right? No, you're going to test and you're going to tweak and you're going to do different things. So the biggest thing that I've learned is that your failures seem, at least at first, when you're kind of not knowing what you're doing and you're kind of figuring this out as you go, your failures are going to be way more than your successes. And the goal is to, over time, have more successes than failure, knowing that you're still going to fail a whole bunch. And you've got to have that mindset of, I'm going to push on. A failure is not, it's not fatal. I can continue to move forward. And they're all data points along the way. And so when it comes to marketing, I hate to tell it to you, you're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. So you might as well get used to that, accept it, and know that, hey, the next at bat, I saw that changeup, I'm going to be able to hit it next time.
So good. All right, Travis, how can our listeners connect with you?
The best place to go, I would love to send everybody who's listening a copy of my book. I've got a copy here. It's called The Simple 3-Step Process That Ensures Direct Mail Success. You guys probably all know what the 3-step process is now: list, offer, media. I think this is about a 130-page book. We probably went through about 30 of the 130 pages on this call. So it goes way more in depth on lists, offer, media, effectiveness, how to use it, when to use it, what kind of offer should I make. Like I said, we go into each one of these things. We could probably spend 2 hours on a podcast call. So if you like that, go to book.3dmailresults.com. So I'll spell it for you. BOOK dot the number 3, the letter D, MAILRESULTS.com. It's $3. So cover the shipping costs. I'll send you a copy of this. And then, to kind of let you into the background, I'll actually send you some direct mail after you order the book. So you'll actually kind of see how this stuff all works and is interconnected. So book.3dmailresults.com, free copy. You just cover shipping of $3.
The best kind of mail to get is the kind that you can learn from. So
You got it.
highly recommend everybody take you up on that offer. It's amazing. And I thank you so much, Travis, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. I love the conversation. Love to be back.
I would love to have you back. So we will do
Awesome.
that.
Perfect.
And of course, thank you to all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.